Donald Trump may be facing criminal charges very soon, according to recent New York Times reporting, observing the actions, the recent signals being seen of prosecutors out of New York. Take a look at this from the New York Times. Prosecutors signal criminal charges for Trump are likely. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office recently signaled to Donald J. Trump's lawyers that he could face criminal charges for his role in the payment of hush money to a porn star, the strongest indication yet that prosecutors are nearing an indictment of the former president, according to 4 people with knowledge of the matter. So in case you're blurry on this or it's been a while, Stormy Daniels allegedly had an affair with Trump shortly before the 2016 election, was planning on coming out with the story about this. And so then, and this is all what's being investigated, much of it alleged, or you get the point. Okay. So then Trump's team went to Stormy Daniels and gave her a hush money payment to keep her quiet, to make sure she didn't go to the press with the story of their affair. And that, for 2 reasons, could have been against the law. First, Michael Cohen was the one who actually paid Daniels $130,000, and Trump paid Michael Cohen back. And so the way that he paid him back could have been illegal. We'll talk about that more specifically in a second here. Number 2, because this was a direct attempt to influence the 2016 election, but it wasn't disclosed as a campaign contribution, that also could cause legal issues. It's causing legal issues here, but could end up being a part of these charges. So to the specifics of this, the $130,000 payment came when Ms. Daniels' representatives contacted the National Enquirer to offer exclusive rights to her story about an affair with Mr. Trump. David Pecker, the tabloid's publisher and a longtime ally of Mr. Trump, had agreed to look out for potentially damaging stories about him during the 2016 campaign, and at one point even agreed to buy the story of another woman's affair with Mr. Trump and never publish it, a practice known as catch and kill. But Mr. Pecker didn't bite at Miss Daniels' story. Instead, he and the tabloid's top editor, Dylan Howard, helped broker a separate deal between Mr. Cohen and Miss Daniels' lawyer. Mr. Trump later reimbursed Mr. Cohen through monthly checks. In the federal case against Mr. Cohen, prosecutors said that Mr. Trump's company falsely accounted for the monthly payments as legal expenses, and the company records cited a retainer agreement with Mr. Cohen. Although Mr. Cohen was a lawyer and became Mr. Trump's personal attorney after he took office, there was no such retainer agreement, and the reimbursement was unrelated to any legal services Mr. Cohen performed. That could be falsifying business records. And then as for what would take that from a misdemeanor to a felony with the addition of a second crime is this. In this case, the second crime could be a violation of New York state election law. While hush money is not inherently illegal, the prosecutors could argue that the $130,000 payment effectively became an improper donation to Mr. Trump's campaign under the theory that because the money silenced Ms. Daniels, it benefited his candidacy. So that's what is being investigated here. That's what charges could be coming soon about. And just one last element of this New York Times reporting to take a look at: the prosecutors offered Mr. Trump the chance to testify next week before the grand jury that has been hearing evidence in the potential case. The people said such offers almost always indicate an indictment is close. It would be unusual for the district attorney Alvin L. Bragg to notify a potential defendant without ultimately seeking charges against him. So that's what's giving the New York Times the indication that charges are coming soon. Here is this being reported on Fox News.
Fox News alert. The New York Times is reporting tonight that the Manhattan District Attorney's Office is likely to bring criminal charges against Donald Trump. According to 4 sources close to the case, the Times says Trump's been asked to testify before a grand jury next week over the hush money payments made to Stormy Daniels in 2016. They're alleging Trump may have broken state campaign laws by paying her just days before the 2016 election. According to the Times, this invitation to testify is the strongest indication so far that DA Alvin Bragg is planning to bring charges.
The audience likely not very stoked about this news, and I'm going to show you one moment of former Representative Adam Kinzinger, former Republican representative, who appeared on CNN and made a point that I think is very apt here.
Adam, what's your reaction to this latest development?
Yeah, I mean, it's I guess it's a big story to an extent. It's not the enchilada I think everybody is thinking. Obviously, the biggest thing I'm interested in is what happens on the January 6th situation and stuff like that. But this, obviously, there's a lot of details I still don't necessarily know about this case. But as all your guests have been saying, it's going to be difficult to prove, difficult to prosecute. So I think people need to look at this kind of in that spectrum and realize, look, we're still waiting to hear from Georgia and some of the other stuff federally as well.
So it's not that if indeed Trump did what is being described here and it indeed was against the laws and all that, that he shouldn't be held accountable. He should. And it would be a massive deal that a former president is getting charged, a current presidential candidate, with a crime. But for me, the way that, and the term people use, not that we're wanting Trump to go down for going down's sake, but instead for the wrongdoing that he's partook in, what he, I wish would go down for is the most impactful actions that he took, the most damaging actions that he took. And for me, that has to do with the election. The Georgia case, looking at his attempts to overturn the election results there. The federal cases into that same thing federally, and his January 6th actions and all these important elements of his anti-democratic possible crimes, because that is what will cause a ripple effect throughout the future to make clear that even a president cannot stand against our democratic process, as Trump did, and attempt to stay in the White House despite losing the election, and the fake elector scheme and his lies that led to January 6th and the possible crimes related to him trying to overturn the election in multiple states. And that is what in the history books needs to be seen as something he saw justice in regard to. And so if crimes were committed here, hold him accountable. But if the headline is the first round of indictments is coming from the Stormy Daniels situation, I think that is less justice to me than the other cases for sure. But it'll be fascinating to follow. And like I said, it is a massive, massive story. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to be a part of what makes this show possible, plus get access to the full video version of the show hours before all the clips are uploaded to YouTube, plus get the full bonus show every single Saturday, you can do so by going to patreon.com/Luke Beasley. That's patreon.com/Luke Beasley. Link in the description.